So this week we're going to spend some time looking at punctuation and ways that we create sentences to make complete thoughts. And we're going to focus in on run-on sentences, a form of run-on called the comma splice, and sentence fragments. So before we do that, let's just review some key terms and refresh our memories. Remember that a phrase is a group of two or more words that express a single idea, but are not usually able to form a complete sentence. So they are functioning as something like a noun or a verb or a preposition, so all of those different types of phrases, but they're not complete enough to be a sentence. So if we think about, for instance, an appositive phrase, which is a type of noun phrase in our sentence, we can look at this example. Sally, the excellent singer, will be singing the main part in the musical. The excellent singer describes Sally, but it's really just a noun phrase and a positive phrase that's renaming her. We could switch the place of Sally and the excellent singer in the sentence and we'd still have the same meaning. And so that's how we know that it's a noun phrase. But the excellent singer is not enough information to stand alone as a sentence. A clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a predicate. And remember, a predicate is a fancy term for a verb and all the things that go with that verb. So when we're looking at a sentence, we expect to find a subject and a predicate, but sometimes, depending on the type of sentence we have, if it's compound, complex, compound, complex, we might have more than one subject and more than one predicate. So we have to be on the lookout for that. Now, in these examples, you can see the types of clauses that we have. So we've learned about independent clauses and we've learned about dependent clauses. So if we think about independent clauses, the kids run around the playground. Dependent clause, using that awubis word, makes our whole clause dependent. So school is dismissed for the day could be independent, but when I add when to the front of it, when school is dismissed for the day, that's what makes it dependent, because now I need more information to have a complete thought. But I could combine these two types of clauses together to create a complex sentence that expresses one complete thought, even though I'm using two types of clauses. The kids run around the playground when school is dismissed for the day. Okay, notice how when I put them together, now I've got a complete sentence, and I've got an independent clause and a dependent clause, and that's what makes it a complex sentence. Now, run-on sentences. You may be familiar with these already, but we're going to review them together. This is a kind of sentence with two or more clauses that are not connected by the correct punctuation or the correct conjunction. A lot of times when we see run-on sentences, we see compound sentences or complex sentences that have not been joined together correctly. So here's an example. On Saturday, Bill went to the baseball game. Unfortunately, rain delayed the game for 3 hours. Notice how there's no stopping place in the middle there where we would naturally pause, because these are two separate thoughts. They're two separate sentences and we need some better punctuation. So if I were to put a period at the end of game and capitalize unfortunately, that would change everything in our sentence, right? It would make everything more correct. Now, when we think about comma splices are a little bit different, because what a comma splice is when we're trying to make a compound sentence, but instead of including a comma and a fanboys conjunction, we leave out that fanboys conjunction and we just use the comma alone, which is not enough to hold the sentence together correctly. So this comma splice occurs when you put just a comma between two independent clauses and you leave out the conjunction. For example, Angela and Jackie walked to school. They were still early. That's a kind of run-on. There's not enough pause there in between the two thoughts. So we have options when we want to fix something like this, and we have these two independent clauses and we want to make a compound sentence. We have choices in the way we can fix them. We could simply take out the comma and put a period in its place, and that could be enough to change our punctuation to make it correct, a period and a capital letter. But the other alternative is to leave the comma and to use a fanboys conjunction, for, and, or, No, that's not. For and nor, but, or, yet, so are our fanboys, right? So choose one of those and put it in with the comma. Or if you want to get really fancy, you could use a semicolon. And that's how we use a semicolon correctly, to join together two independent clauses that are related to each other in the sentence. Rather than putting a period and a capital letter or a comma and a fanboys, we would use the semicolon. And I will tell you, it is impressive when you use semicolons correctly. So it's something you might want to get into the habit of as you're getting ready to go to high school. I feel like it's one of those things that when I see students do this, and I know that our teachers at the high school as well, when they see students using semicolons correctly, they're like, wow, look at that kid and their semicolon. So just think about that because it's really a great skill to have. It's very impressive. Now, the last thing I want to talk about today is fragments. Fragments are incomplete sentences. Sometimes fragments are made by making a phrase and trying to pretend it's a sentence. Okay, that's one way we can have a fragment. The other way is when you have a dependent clause and it needs more information. It needs to be hooked up to an independent clause to make a complex sentence, but we turn it into its own sentence, and that dependent clause is not strong enough to stand alone. Okay? But it often happens when a writer breaks the sentence into two parts, but it's done incorrectly. Okay? So think about using your end punctuation and your capitalization really carefully to avoid sentence fragments. Think about those independent clauses and check your work to see if you have an independent clause. So for example, please keep trying until you succeed. Notice how until you succeed, that until, that's an awubis word. We have a dependent clause. You is our subject, succeed is our verb. It's dependent on please keep trying. So we need to join them together and make them one whole sentence in order to have a complete thought. So I'm going to ask you to take some time, practice with this, and then there is a quiz available for you in Schoology. So review all of this information, go back to your notes about types of sentences, think about the punctuation, and then jump in and take that Schoology quiz. And as always, I'm here if you have questions. Let me know how I can help you. I hope to see you online. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.